わたあなた。またいいのぶなだ。
一杯のコーヒーが一日の活力を呼び覚ますんです。たまには一息ついても大切です。
この気を逃さん。こたびも私が勝つ。耐えてみせる。はっ、時間の無駄です。やっはっへっだはっ。無意味なあがきです。この気を逃さん。はっさはっちれたたえっはっはっ、受けて立つやっ望むところだ。はっえっはっ終わりだ。えっ攻撃速攻見切ったやっ。
俺様の出番だ。
ほんの気持ち痛くないわよ。 あら痛そう。じゃっ
言い残すことはあるか。
よっしゃほらよく見とけ。やっどっちでも戦場に退路なし。チクッとするだけなんてね。
Okay, so the energy regen one seems to be pretty popular. And Shockstar seems pretty good too. I guess the Oxo one is used by a bunch of people as well. Yeah, because we have a double bonus at the moment, so I'm trying to figure out which is the best one to pick. So like stockpile additional ones, maybe to re-roll on other people's, or to prep for a future.
勝利火力何より護衛アンビ一切ハイトーン様のお誘いとあればぜひ。
Yeah, I think what I'll probably do is whatever the priority is, I'll probably get that to 12. So obviously it's usually their main passive, which is pretty much like, it's pretty much always listed as a priority. And then it's usually like one or two other CLs as priority. I think I'll get those to 12, and then for secondary priorities, I'll level them up to 11. And maybe to 12 if they're like a main DPS. And then only as needed, I'll leave it just 7. Because that's when it starts using the purple ones. Although maybe if they're main DPS, I might also level this up to 11. Simply because if they're main DPS and are on the field the most, it's the dodge and the dodge counter. And so if you're going to be on the field, you might be dodging, so you might want to level this up. But for like all the other support, it's like you're probably not going to be dodging because you're not going to be on the field that much to begin with.
本日はお日柄もよく。
こんなところで霊的な代物にお目にかかるとは。どうやら
霊的？この子はウーフって言って。
いや何、この品種で人のせ
スキーにだって。
そうだな。とはいえ賢いというのも考えものさ。
I mean, that's stupid. It's like,
おかげで彼は
oh, they can be intelligent. Look, there's one dog as proof. It's like one of anything. That's basically, statistically speaking, a sample size of one is meaningless. Or I like to say, a sample size of one is statistically meaningless because it's like there are, like, it's the bell curve, right? Like when you're thinking about the bell curve, within a bell curve, 2 standard deviations from the center is 95% of everything in the bell curve. The entire area is 95% within 2 standard deviations. You only have 2.5% beyond it at the top end, and 2.5% on the bottom end. So it's just like when 95% are dumb as a rock, you know, having 1 or 2 aberrations who are especially stupid and especially smart doesn't really mean shit, right? It's like, cool, you found 1, but it's like, but 1 doesn't mean anything. I mean, and of course, that's only for a bell curve. Like, there could be other, and that's the only, like, that's just that specific thing. Obviously, not everything is going to be a bell curve, but it is. Just goes to show that, like, yeah, no matter how one thing might seem, you can't really use that as proof of like some sort of commonality. To be like, oh, well, we found one that, like, basically, if you go onto a planet, right, find a new species, and you find one smart thing, you might be like, oh, okay, cool. That's the intelligence level of the entire species. But it could also not be true at all. You could have just found the smartest one, right? So it's like, you really shouldn't, like, it's fine to operate under the assumption that other things are that intelligent, but you shouldn't, like, just ignore reality, right? You shouldn't just be like, okay, all of them are this smart. Like, no. It's fine in the absence of other information to say, yeah, sure, they're all this smart. But the problem is we get a lot of people who are like, well, we found an exception to the rule, therefore the rule doesn't apply. It's like, no. This is a general rule. The general rule still applies when it works in a vast majority of situations. But you get so many people who are like, but I found this one exception. It's like, okay, so just because you found one exception doesn't rule out the 95% of instances where this works out. Like, you could, like, House even brought it up. House, the television series. Because people were like, oh my god, like, I can't believe this guy acts like this and does things like this. It's like, well, yeah, like, that's not the general way a doctor should act. Because the way House acts works only in that very specific situation. Because he's working on the exceptions. He's working on the patients that have fallen through the cracks and where the general rule of doctoring doesn't apply. Because the general rule of doctoring for these specific patients will just not be able to diagnose their issue in time, and they will die. So that's why House can act the way he wants to, because he is that exception. He is the exception to the rule to show, how he can diagnose the undiagnosable and save someone who would have otherwise not been saved if all the doctors, diagnosing him followed the general rule. But his existence doesn't mean, oh, we should get rid of the general rules. No. The general rules of doctoring are great, and they work for most patients. But he is just working within that exception class. And he's just, it's the way it is. And he even brings that up, too. He's just like saying, in one of the episodes when they were, like, talking about how he acts in a way that just not really, that most other doctors don't act. It's like, well, yeah, because I am doing this thing. But people don't understand statistics. That's the basic principle of it. So they're like, oh, I found an exception, therefore this disproves the rule. It's like, no. I mean, actually, the Twitter discourse around Claire Obscura is proof positive of this. So, basically, Claire Obscura did very well. I played the game, I love the game, it's a great game, right? But people are using that game and be like, look, this game performed very well. And then they're using a misquoted line from Yoshi P. The misquoted line is, turn-based RPGs don't sell, which was never actually what he said. he was being asked about the reason behind the direction. He was asked about the reason behind the direction of turning Final Fantasy 16 into action-based combat. He was asked, like, hey, why are you going action-based combat for Final Fantasy 16? And he was like, well, for Final Fantasy 16, we're trying to appeal to the next generation of gamers. We're trying to, just like how Final Fantasies in the past appealed to the, younger generation of the time and grew up loving the series, he wants to, create a game that will, appeal to that, that young generation, those the teenagers, so that this game 16 will be their entryway into the Final Fantasy series, right? Because we all had one, right? We all had our first Final Fantasy game, right? That made us love the series and be like, oh my god, I want to play the rest of them, right? So that's what 16 was trying to do. That's what he said 16 was trying to do. And he said that, the younger generation prefers action combat games over the traditional turn-based RPGs. I mean, that statement is 100% true. If you go to a 16-year-old and say, hey, would you rather play an action-based combat game or a turn-based RPG? They'll probably say action-based combat. And the numbers also support that. If you look at the max concurrent Steam player count for action-based RPGs, action combat games versus turn-based RPGs, they are shitloads more. In fact, I even checked it up too. So Clair Obscur, when looking at peak concurrent Steam concurrent players, when I segmented the category to turn-based combat games, Clair Obscur was third of all turn-based RPGs, and I think second is bullshit, because the second place got 200,000 and Clair Obscur is 145, but the game that got the second place was pretty much less than 1,000 players for pretty much the entirety of its existence, except for 1 month when it suddenly spiked to 200,000 and then dropped back down the next month immediately to less than 1,000 again. So incredibly suspicious, but whatever. Clair Obscur, number 3. If we look at action combat games, weirdly enough, Clair Obscur still did appear on the list. But so while Clair Obscur was third in turn-based combat, it was like 65th or something like that. It was way down the list. For was it 34? I think it might have been 34, because I was like, oh my god, if it was only slightly more popular, it would have been 33, and that would have been really funny. But it was like 34th, right? So it's like third as a turn-based RPG, 34th as a action combat game. So yeah, obviously, being popular as a turn-based RPG, being one of the most popular turn-based RPGs doesn't really mean shit in terms of action combat. And then if you just look at peak concurrent Steam players for all game genres, third on the list, the third most popular turn-based RPG makes you 115th most popular game from all genres. So it's like, yeah, the numbers support what Yoshi P said. But, and this happened also for Baldur's Gate 3 as well, and Metaphor ReFantazio, is that when a game does well, and when a turn-based combat game does well, people are like, oh my god, look at this! This disproves the misquoted statement. Because weirdly enough, Yoshi P said that about Final Fantasy 16, and then it became just the blanket statement. It was warped into the blanket statement of Square Enix says turn-based RPGs don't sell, which is never been said ever. And it went from just Yoshi P talking about Final Fantasy 16 to Square Enix, the company, making a blanket statement about turn-based RPGs, which is incredibly stupid, because Square Enix consistently makes turn-based RPGs, right? You would be remiss. It's literally every single year they release at least one. In fact, the year Final Fantasy 16 came out, they released Octopath Traveler 2, a pure turn-based RPG. So the same year, and of course when Final Fantasy 16 came out, people were bitching and moaning, oh man, I wanted it to be turn-based. Why can't Square Enix make turn-based games? Dude, they literally released a turn-based RPG the same year. But we don't hear people talking about that, right? We don't hear people talk about Triangle Strategy, DioField Chronicle, Octopath Traveler 2, the the Dragon Quest III remake, the 2 Saga games, both turn-based RPGs. It's like Square Enix releases lots of turn-based RPGs, no one buys them, and then they're like surprised that Square Enix might think that, like, because like even if the Steam numbers didn't prove my point, like Square Enix's sales numbers prove it enough for them, right? Like, sure, they're definitely selling them, and it's not like they're not selling them. But when like Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million copies in like 3 days, or something like that, I forget the time frame when they announced it, but they announced it pretty quick, right? Like, other games don't sell nearly as well. So it's like, it's crazy to think that these people, when a turn-based RPG does well, they're like, oh my god, look at this is proof positive that Square Enix is wrong. Turn-based RPGs do sell. It's like, well, first of all, they never said that. Second of all, the Steam charts don't back up your theory. The sales numbers don't back up your theory, because the other turn-based RPGs they do release don't sell nearly as well. And you could blame, oh, well, your games aren't popular, whatever, right? Sure, right? So Clair Obscur is a really, really good game. Like, Clair Obscur is a 10 out of 10 game. And Dragon Quest III, the 2D, 3D remaster, it's probably not. It's probably like an 8 out of 10. So it's not surprising that an 8 out of 10 will perform worse than a 10 out of 10. So there is that. It's like, if the game you produce isn't, oh yeah, and Fantasian Neo Dimension or whatever like that. Neo Dimension Fantasian also came out. So it's like, Square Enix releases tons of turn-based RPGs all the time. But yet, if you didn't actually like look it up at all, you would assume, oh yeah, Square Enix only likes action combat games. Yeah, because the people quoting that shit are people who only play Final Fantasies and nothing else, but still blame Square Enix as a whole for not producing turn-based RPGs, which is like, Square Enix as a whole does. You don't buy them, and are surprised when Square Enix makes their main titles not them. It's like your money is not backing up your speech. Like, you're not backing up your words with your actions. So Square Enix is going to listen to your actions over your words, for one. So like, that's the dumb thing. Is that you just get this rhetoric, and it happens. Like, for Baldur's Gate 3, people were like, "Oh yeah, turn-based RPGs are back." Whereas Baldur's Gate 3 was an aberration in and of itself. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 was popular not because it was a turn-based RPG. It was because of the story, convoluted endings, the amount of freedom you had. It's the best Dungeons and Dragons game on the market, like, ever, I think. It's the best Dungeons and Dragons themed new game on the market, with tons of customizations, tons of shit. Like, there's a lot of other reasons. Its turn-based combat was like very a minor part of it, right? Like, it being co-op 100% helped, right, with the longevity of the game. So the co-op nature of it, the storytelling, just the general vibe of the story, as well as the variety of endings and the so many different ways you can do stuff, all those are the three key things, I think, that contributed to the game's success. And I guess the length of the game too, just how long it takes to do it. But that's kind of natural, because like turn-based, because it's not a turn-based RPG, I would say it's a turn-based strategy game, because that's kind of what it is. And turn-based strategy games take for fucking ever to play. Like, they just do. Like, Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, all the turn-based strategy games take a while. Like, a single battle, like, you play a traditional turn-based game like Octopath Traveler, Final Fantasy X, Clair Obscur, one battle. I mean, Clair Obscur, obviously not for the big bosses, but like just a normal battle and a regular battle of mobs on the field. That's like it'll be like a minute or two, maybe 5 minutes tops, right? And then you're done. But like a turn-based strategy game, like one battle with just like normal, regular mobs is still like a 20 to 30 minute endeavor sometimes, you know? Unless you're like ridiculously overpowered and you can one-shot them. But even still, like the positioning, the selection of abilities and all that shit, setting things up, you know, still takes a while. So, yeah. So, like, all those things led to its popularity. But people are like, nope, the only reason it's popular is turn-based. And the Metaphor ReFantazio came out, and they're like, it's an amazing game, and it is a great game. It's a great app. It's another great turn-based combat game that Atlas has produced. Atlas mostly produces turn-based RPGs. And they produced another one, and it was a great game. However, it was nowhere near as popular as Clair Obscur. Like, if you look at concurrent Steam players, I don't even think it broke 100,000. So it's like, I don't even think it broke 50,000. It was like, despite the acclaim it got, and despite people liking it, and despite it being a good game, concurrent player count on Steam does not reflect its supposed popularity. Now, Clair Obscur is much more popular. It is third most popular turn-based RPG. So, you know, it is very popular. But every time there's a turn-based RPG that comes out that does well, or at least that is well regarded in public sentiment, because even Metaphor and Fantasio, people were claiming, oh my god, turn-based RPGs are back, you know, despite it not actually having the numbers that people praising it would suggest. Every time that happens, they go back and say, why can't Square Enix listen? It's like, dude, Square Enix releases, you know, turn-based RPGs every single year. Every single year. Go back, check the games they're releasing. They at least one, but usually two. Like this year we had, was Dragon Quest 3 this year, or was it late last? I think it was this early this year. But we're gonna or no, I think it was maybe late last year. But we're gonna have Dragon Quest 1 and 2, remake, remaster. The Dragon Quest series has always been turn-based, and that's the thing too. Dragon Quest has always been turn-based. It's from its inception. Every single game has been turn-based. Final Fantasy has never had that consistency. Final Fantasy has changed its combat style multiple times. Every single game, no game has the exact same style of combat, the exact same way to level, the exact same way to do things. Right? It's always changed. And so when people bitch and moan that the next Final Fantasy game has changed its combat, it's like, are you fucking stupid? Like, they literally do this every fucking time. Like, and you're going to complain about it? It's like, yeah, you're only complaining about it because it switched to something that you don't like as much. It's like, okay. But like, it always changes every fucking time. You know? Like, you might think, oh, well, turn-based. The only pure turn-based RPGs that Final Fantasy, the mainline series, has been 1 and 10. That's it. Every other 2 through 9 and 11 through 16 have not been pure turn-based combat. So it's just like, to say that, oh, they need to make turn-based, it's like, well, what kind of turn-based are you talking about? Because they have a wide variety of turn-based combat they've done. Also, some of the reasons why we did turn-based combat is simply just because of how simple it is to code and program, and the restrictions of technology at the time. So we're no longer bound by those restrictions. You know, it gives the developers more freedom to do what they want. You know? But we're like, no, you can't do what you want, you have to do what we want. It's like, no. If you don't like it, then don't play it. It's just that simple. You know? It's this kind of weird thing that you gotta get. It's like this weird oops. Oops, one sec. So yeah, it's one of these things where it's like, it just is annoying. And it basically, as I was saying, a sample size of 1 is statistically irrelevant. Because, yeah, like, Clair Obscur doing well doesn't mean shit, because in the grand scheme of things, turn-based RPGs are just not as popular as that. So, like, so people saying turn-based RPGs don't sell well, that's a quantity issue. Selling well means that you made your money back, which is different. Not being popular is what it actually is. They are not as popular. And it's not like they aren't popular. No. Just they aren't as popular as other genres, right? It's just that simple. It's a fact. It's provably true. You know, like the numbers back that up. So it is crazy that these people were just like, and we get crazy people like Sebi who are like, oh no, we've been gaslighted the turn-based RPG fans have been gaslighted that these aren't popular, it's like, or that they don't sell well. It's like, first of all, no one said that quote. You're the ones gaslighting the rest of the world by using a fake quote. Like, you're saying, oh no, we're being gaslit. It's like, that's a fake quote, right? Like, that quote is not real. Okay, I'm back. Had some shit pop up. But yeah, so yeah. Anyway, I guess this is a good. I'll just wrap up my rant. So basically, anyway, anytime I was using it as an example, but yeah. So basically, as I said, sample size of 1 is statistically irrelevant. Having one good turn-based RPG come out and be popular does not mean that turn-based RPGs are popular. It just means that they market for them, and you'd be remiss to not want to, create games within that market. But if you can only make one game, and you want to make money, well, if you only make one game and want to make money, make a gacha game. You make fuckloads of money. But if you want to make a good game, no. The problem, of course, comes from the idea that, especially when it comes to gaming, because you think, oh, okay, well, action combat games are more popular. Let's make an action combat game. But that's a really bad methodology when coming into the video gaming space, right? You shouldn't be thinking, you shouldn't want to be thinking, what's popular? This is popular? Okay, I'm going to make that. It's no, you should be going into the gaming space thinking, I want to make this specific game. I like, action combat games. I like turn-based games. I like whatever kind of games. I want to create my own version of that, right? You want to come in with an impassioned idea of what you want to do, and the popularity of what it is shouldn't be a factor, right? And that's basically why Clair, well, not really basically why, but that is one of the reasons why Clair Obscur was so popular, is that these developers loved the old JRPGs and other RPGs, they love the old JRPGs and RPGs in general, and so they thought, hey, you know what? We really like turn-based RPGs. We want to do one ourselves, right? We want to put our own spin on this. And then they made Clair Obscur, which is really good. I think that's the whole point. Is you don't want to think, I want to make an RPG, but what kind of RPG should I make? Let's look for the most popular. Let's look at the most popular ones, and we'll do that. It's because if you're going in like that, you're not, it means that you're not passionate enough about the subject matter, which means you might the end product will not be as good. And it could still be as good, right? It still could still be good, right? Because you could. It obviously depends on how passionate the developers are. And it could be that you like turn-based and action combat just equally much, so you can't decide, so you just look at the most popular one and be like, okay, action combat is more popular, let's do that, right? But you're equally passionate about both, but you decide to make more money and choose the other. Or, even if you don't like action combat as much yourself, you could, put in the passion to still develop a really good one. But typically, you want people who already like a specific field, because they know what's good about that field and what's bad about that field, what to do and what to avoid, right? That's the point. That's why you want that team of passionate developers who like games in the same style. Basically, you want a game developer to make a game that they themselves would play and would like to play, right? Because they know what works for that type of game and what doesn't work, or what they like and don't like of that genre, right? And can make improvements and make it better. Whereas if you have a guy who doesn't like action combat games but decides to make an action combat game because they're popular, he's not going to enjoy playing the game, and he might remove aspects from the game that most action combat enjoyers like, because he just doesn't like that as a feature. But it's well, you don't like action combat games, so you removed a vital portion from that to make it more palatable to you, but you're not the target audience because you don't like action combat games, right? So it's that kind of shit, So that's why Clair Obscur is really well, but anytime it comes up, it's oh my god, this did really well. This misquoted, 100% untrue, 100% this line that is being quoted and passed around that literally no one in Square Enix ever said. Or if they ever did say they don't, turn-based RPGs don't sell, it's obviously a qualitative statement compared to the other games, right? If they ever did say, oh yeah, they don't sell, it was probably preceded or followed by a compared to this or that, right? because it is true that they don't sell as well as action combat games. Black Myth Wukong, 2 million concurrent players. Elden Ring, almost 1 million, right? Like, what does Clair Obscur have? 145,000. You know? No, like, hell, even Schedule 1, the random drug dealing indie game, did 3 to 4 times, had 3 to 4 times more concurrent Steam players, right? Like, I'm not going to say that Clair Obscur is bad because other games did better. No, but that's exactly what these people are doing. They're saying, yes, this game is bad because the numbers on this game is better. It's like, well, then what about your game being bad because the numbers pale in comparison to all the other games, right? Like, Clair Obscur is a good game, but it's still only 115th on peak concurrent players on Steam. You know? So that means there's 114 games better than this, so I guess Clair Obscur is shit, right? No one would say that. That's a fucking stupid statement to make, right? Like, but that's exactly what the people saying, look, Clair Obscur did well, therefore the statement that was never said is untrue. It's like, no. Finding one game a year that does, within the turn-based RPG genre, that does well. Also, like, the only two that actually did well were Baldur's Gate, which wasn't really a turn-based RPG, it was a turn-based strategy game, but whatever, and Clair Obscur, because they're the number 1 and number 3 turn-based combat game on Steam. Metaphor? Nowhere near that high. So again, it's just like, there just isn't as big an audience that people suggest. It's popular, sure. It has its popularity within its user base, but its user base has a mistaken idea of how popular their beliefs are. They think, oh, look at all these people on Twitter reiterating all these things. The same as me. Therefore, it must be really popular. There must be lots of people who do this. You know? But no. And like, Clair Obscur did well, right? Like, it sold 2 million copies in a week or so. Like, that's pretty good, you know? It's definitely good for how low budget it was, for like how little they had to spend, how small the development team is, like a small, tight, they ran a great ship, right? It's incredibly popular, and they definitely made bank on this because of how little they spent and how much they're getting back from it, right? Compared to like the other AAA, you know, things, right? But if you think about it, Final Fantasy 16 did 3 million in like 3 days or something like that, or so it did better, just flat out, right? And people like, oh, Baldur's Gate was really good. Yeah, Baldur's Gate did really well. Like, I think by late February the following year, so it released in August, September of 2023, and by late February of 2024, they announced they made 10 million sales. Right, that's amazing. Very good, you know. It's a great popular game. However, Spider-Man 2, which released in like October, November, announced that they made 10 million sales in early February. So Spider-Man 2 released 2 to 3 months later, and then earlier in the same month that Baldur's Gate 3 made their announcement, Spider-Man 2 made their announcement that they made similar sales. So in less time, considering they were released after and made their announcements before, in less time they made 10 million sales. And you might be like, well, Spider-Man's a big popular IP. First of all, Baldur's Gate is a very well-known IP within that game genre. You know, Baldur's Gate, the first Baldur's Gate was in like early 2000s or something like that, so it's a storied franchise, right? But also, you might be like, oh, well, you know, Spider-Man 2 is more popular known. Yeah, of course, there's movies, there's comics, there's all. Yeah, no shit, it's more popular. It's a much more well-known, I would say. Of course, I would not argue against that. However, in less time, for a PS5 exclusive game, they made more sales, right? Spider-Man 2 only sold on PS5, and they made 10 million sales in like 2 to 3, in like three less months. So if it came out in October, like in like 4 months they did it, whereas Baldur's Gate 3 needed like 6 months. Actually, no, because it released in August or September. Pretty sure it was August for Steam, and then PlayStation, for other consoles and stuff, it came out on September. So they had, you know, August 8th, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5. So it took them 7 months to Spider-Man 3. Let's say Spider-Man 3 came out in October. So it's October, November, December, January, February, so 5 months. So they did in 5 months what Baldur's Gate 3 did in 7, while selling on all systems. So as a PS5 exclusive, beat one of the most popular and best Dungeons and Dragons RPG on the market, right? So it's like, so people like to say, "Oh my god, this is so popular. This is the most popular thing. Turn-based RPGs are back." It's like, no, they aren't. They never are back. Like, making one good game is just making a good game. That game will be popular, but it doesn't mean all games within the genre will be popular. Having Clair Obscur do really well is not going to mean that we're going to see high player counts on any other turn-based RPG. In fact, because Clair Obscur is a 10 out of 10 game. Baldur's Gate 3 is a 10 out of 10 game. Not all turn-based RPGs are 10 out of 10 games. So, like, because it's a mistaken idea to think that, oh, these two games were good, therefore all the other games will be good. Now people will spend more money. It's like, look, even if people see how well Baldur's Gate 3 did and Clair Obscur does, and they think, you know what? Well, first of all, the people who would be like, oh, you know what? These are really popular. Let's do one ourselves. Those people are probably not going to make good ones because they're just following the bandwagon. They're not impassioned developers who really love the genre, who want to make a really good game within the genre. They're just a bunch of greedy suits who want to make money in what they think is a popular genre, not realizing that the popularity of the genre is incorrect, is not being represented properly. So is not being represented properly, and the game that they're going to make simply because it's a popular genre is not going to be a 10 out of 10 game. It could be, obviously. You could get super lucky, and it could be that a company's like, hey, let's going to do this, and they happen to have a bunch of developers within their company who are actually very impassioned about the genre, and are like, you know what? Cool, we're getting a bunch of money to make a turn-based RPG. Nice! I've always wanted to make one, but I've been stuck on this project or that project doing something I wasn't a super fan of. So there definitely will be that, but like the odds of that are going to be super, super low. And have the people who are impassioned about the genre to actually be in charge and be able to make the creative decisions necessary to make it really good, right? So like people companies who then swerve and be like, oh, these games were popular, cool, let's make one too, are not going to make 10 out of 10 games. They're going to make 7s and 6s and 8s maybe, and they won't do well, because they're not 10 out of 10s, and then people will be like, oh, okay, I guess this genre isn't as popular as we thought, right? That's exactly what's going to happen, because that's just how it is, right? Like people thinking, oh, I know what this will do. This will make these companies realize how popular the genre is. First of all, if they're a company like Square Enix, who's been making turn-based RPGs their entire career, no, it won't. You want to know why? Because they have actual sales numbers to back up their shit. You might think, oh, look, Clair Obscur did really well. Look how popular it is on the internet. Everyone's praising it. But Square Enix is like, okay, well, here's a list of the sales count for every single one of our turn-based games. They're nowhere near that. So we're not gonna bank our money purely on the sentiment on the internet, right? Now, I would love if Final Fantasy 17 was turn-based. I prefer that than action combat. But if they make a good game, I won't care, right? Despite not liking action combat, I still played 16 and I loved it, right? So, I'm not going to do some of the sweatier combat challenges within it, because I'm not a huge fan of the genre, but I play it for the story and I like the story, So I did do that. Obviously, I would love it if 17 went back to like Final Fantasy X style turn-based combat. But, I'm curious what the next one will be. I think they will not be action combat. I think they will actually go back and make it turn-based to some degree, like an ATB gauge. Hell, they might do something very similar to what Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is doing. That type of mix of action combat and turn-based combat. It's hard to say because I don't know if they're going to try to keep that combat separate. To be like, no, here's our Final Fantasy VII trilogy, and they're going to have combat like this, and they're going to make 17 different because they don't want them to be too similar. It could go that way too. It could be that they don't want the games to be that to share too many similarities in combat, so they want to make 17 more unique. So it might not go that way, but who knows? We'll see.
それで
Um,
協力って具
but if
体
it does go combat, if it does go turn-based combat, and they bring back the ATB gauge or whatever, right? I bet a million. I'll bet $100 million that all the people who are right now saying, "Look at this, turn-based RPGs are popular," I bet $100 million that those same people will say, "Look, this is proof positive that these games matter." The fact that they did this swap is proof that Square Enix saw how popular Clair Obscur was and realized they were wrong. $100 million, I bet that the same people will make unsubstantiated claims that the Final Fantasy XVII's direction, if they go to a turn-based, if they go more turn-based, well, they'll say yes. The reason why they are going turn-based again is because of the Baldur's Gate. It's because of the Clair Obscur. They're gonna attribute those games' success with the reason, but I don't think so. Because even Yoshi P was saying with 16, he was trying to appeal to a younger audience, but he also said that what did he say again? Trying to appeal to a younger audience. That was it. But he also wanted, he was also, it was also kind of a proof in concept for the developers, for the young developers at Square Enix to say, hey, because obviously, Yoshi P is pretty old, right? And developers who made the original Final Fantasies are also really old and they're retiring, so they're going to have to be, replaced by younger developers and managers and all that shit, right? So he's like, 16 was kind of like a proof in concept to be like, look, you don't have to be restricted to the turn-based combat from previous years. Like, look, Final Fantasy 16 is a Final Fantasy and is also an action combat game. So it was one trying to appeal to the younger generation to be like, to have 16 be their introduction into the Final Fantasy franchise, while still being quintessentially a Final Fantasy game. And two, to let the developers within Square Enix know, hey, you don't have to do the same old. Like, if you think that this will make a good game and will be a fun game and can still keep it as a Final Fantasy game, go ahead and do it, right? To kind of show you, like, yeah, you don't have to be constrained by making it. You don't have to be like, oh, well, it's Final Fantasy, therefore we have to do turn-based. If you want to do turn-based, great, sure. But, it was kind of like to show them, like, yeah, this is also a Final Fantasy game. For future developers at Square Enix, make the best Final Fantasy game you think you can, right? Don't be constrained by other shit. Now, obviously, I'm like reading into it. He did say that he was trying to show young developers at Square Enix that this is also a Final Fantasy game, and I believe that that's what he meant. He was trying to say, like, hey, you don't have to listen to these people saying Final Fantasy games can only be turn-based, despite the fact that some aren't, and that even if they are turn-based, they're grossly different, every single one of them. So you don't have to feel restricted by that. You can still let your creativity flow free. So we'll see. But yeah, 100% bet if they do go turn-based, $100 million. With the same people bitching and moaning, saying, "Look, Clair Obscur proves that turn-based RPGs are popular," despite no one ever saying they weren't. I mean, maybe some like weirdos on Twitter probably maybe said that, but they're usually the people who love their own genre. Like they're people who like only play first-person shooter games and say, yeah, if it's not first-person shooter, it's a shit game, right? Those are the type of people who might make a statement like that. So, yeah. But yeah, you'll get these people who... Because, basically, what they would be doing is basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to find data to prove their point. They're not looking for the actual truth. They're just looking for data that backs up their point, ignoring the data that doesn't. Like they're ignoring concurrent player count on Steam. You know, they use it to say, look how how popular it was, but then completely don't include the fact that it was nowhere near as popular as other games. You know, that other games from other genres do better. Like I saw someone bring it up, say, look, it's the third most popular turn-based action combat game. It's it is, and that's fine by itself. Just saying that, that's fine. You know, I would never respond to someone on Twitter who just said that and say, no, actually, it's not really popular. Look, compared to other game franchises. Like, no, like saying that it's the third most popular RPG on Steam, based on concurrent player count or peak player count. That's fine, right? That's a good thing it did. Yeah, it's great that it's that popular. It's the people who take that number or they take that popularity from its turn-based combat list and try to say, yes, it's popular, and it is one of the most popular games of all time, or other games should be more like this. It's like, if other games were more like this, then they would do less popular, because, you know, other games have like 10 times more concurrent players than this game, so like clearly it's not nearly as popular, right? Like it's 115th, but the numbers go up exponentially, right? So we have like Black Myth Wukong was 2.1 million peak concurrent, right? 2.1 million. That's almost 20 times what, you know, Slayer Obscura was. Now, Black Myth Wukong is like one of the top 5, so obviously, you know, don't use that as a frame of reference. But still, it's like to ignore the fact that the other games are ridiculously more popular in terms of total player count is basically lying by admission. They're just being like, yeah, look, we're going to take this number, we're going to isolate it from all the other numbers that make it look bad, and say that it's better than it is. Or, yeah, to say that it's popular is fine, right? 145,000 current players is amazing. You know, that is a very popular game. I would say it's popular. But just leave it at that, right? Just make a statement about the game by itself. It's a 10 out of 10 game. It is 145,000 people playing the game, so it is popular. You know, that it's the third most popular game on Steam, the turn-based RPG on Steam. You know, those are all fine statements to make because they're all true. But it's when you take those statements and try to like warp them to your agenda to be like, look, this game proves that turn-based RPGs are more popular than the gaslighting people who say these quotes that never happened. Like, no, the people who are using these misquoted quotes are the people actually gaslighting us, because these vehement turn-based RPG fans, they're the ones spreading those quotes, right? Sure, obviously the article may have misquoted it, right? Sure, but it's the turn-based RPG fans that are spreading this misinformation because they want something to fight against. They're not like saying, look at this article, look how bullshit it is. If you actually read the article, look how clickbaity it is. If you actually read the article, they say nothing of the sort. You know? No, it's them spreading the article. Look, here's the headline of this. Here's the headline of this article. Completely not noticing that nothing inside the article actually backs up the summary of the headline, right? So, yeah, I'm annoying. People are annoying. People are stupid. People, I mean, this is just how it is. People will always be trying not to find the truth, but to find the data that will prove them right. And so they ignore the data that disproves them. And it's just like, it's crazy, because you get these people who are like, who are trying to blame the rest of society. Oh, we're being gaslit. It's like, no, you aren't being gaslit. You're using articles that are either lies. Like, so you could be like, yeah, they're trying to make it seem like we, the player base, are gaslighting. It was like, no, you got a bunch of shitty news articles who are just drumming up drama, who they themselves are gaslighting you, not the player base. You get some random bullshit from random people, all trying to say, you know, random crap. Because when Yoshi P comes out and says something like that, it makes for a much better headline to say, oh yeah, turn-based RPGs are shit. Like, turn-based RPGs aren't popular. That's why we're moving to action combat. Despite him never ever saying that or even implying that. Because it's and Josh Strife Hayes has said this multiple times too. It's the same internet meme of you tweeting "I like pancakes" and then you getting a hateful response of "so you hate waffles." It's like, yes, you can't say anything positive about one thing without someone attributing you hating something else. You're like, yes, your positive statement about one thing means apparently that you hate something else. It's like, we didn't mention waffles. I never said waffles. I just said I like pancakes. And that's basically what OCP said. He's like, you know, younger generation likes action combat games. And that statement turned into, oh, younger generation like action combat games? That means, that translates to Square Enix says turn-based RPGs aren't popular. Like, what? They can be popular, but action combat games are more popular, especially amongst a younger demographic. And I'm pretty sure if you ask those people who are like spreading these bullshit articles, and if you ask them, like the turn-based RPG fans who are spreading the bullshit articles to try to convince the world that they're fighting the good fight, I bet if you ask them, okay, well, what do you think a 16-year-old would prefer, an action combat game or a turn-based RPG? Well, I bet even the turn-based RPG fans would admit that a 16-year-old would more likely prefer an action combat game. So they themselves understand that what Yoshi P said was true, but rather than actually look for the truth, they'll just find articles that are misleading, have misleading headlines, without reading the article, and then just use that headline as proof that they're fighting a war to defend the turn-based RPGs.
いいシェンさん、ここにいたんだ。来たか、リン。ここで少し休んでただけとはいえ心配するな。さあさあ、占いに手相に。いなくなったか。よしよし。どうやら
散財戒めのまさかとは思うけど、教えてくれる術法ってそういうやつじゃないよね。
もちろん違うと思う。これは雲岳さんの真なる術法は後でゆっくりと見せて。
Oh, interesting. Because like when Belle used her ability, I was kind of attributing that maybe she was So it feels like hollows are like connecting to another plane of existence, and that connection is what creates a hollow. It's like it creates a connection to another universe, and then like the ether is coming from the other universe, seeping through cracks, and when the ether seeps through the crack into our universe, it creates the hollow. And it felt like what Belle was doing was also creating a connection within herself to that other universe, which could be how like the mystics work. It could be that's how the Yunkai Summit is, or the Yunkui Summit is that they're able to connect to they're able to connect to the other universe and draw their power from there. So it could be that what we do is similar to what they're doing. But like they do it professionally and haven't done it for maybe a long period of time. Hell, maybe mystics have always been connecting to the other universe for the longest time, and maybe that's what caused the Hollow crisis to begin with. Is that they saw that these people were connecting to another universe to draw power, and so they were trying to do it scientifically, and then caused a problem. Like maybe whatever they did, like weaken the fabric of our universe, which allowed for more cracks to appear, allowing ether to seep through the cracks and create hollows. Like, well, I think the Bangboo are cute and all. I do think they are overused. Like, they are kind of annoying and stupid, and so it is kind of like I just don't give a shit about them. So it is kind of annoying how frequently they're used, especially in like story bits. You want to throw them for like a random little like event or whatever, sure, whatever, right? They're cute, they're little mascots and shit, but like, don't try to relate them in the main story. Like, they're dumb, they're so stupid.
ここの店主は顔なじみとしか取引し私か
You can't just kind of ruin the gravitas of the story. Like, you can be silly and stuff, but like, just the Bangboos are just too silly, right? It's not real characters being silly, it's dumb things being dumb. It's like Paimon. It's like, yeah, who don't give a shit about Paimon? The less Paimon there is, the better. She's used as a plot device to get people to explain the world to her so that players can understand what's going on with the world. She has to be stupid so that she can ask the questions that we, the players, have about the world. But Bangboos, they don't do that. They're just dumb. They're just a mascot, and they're overused when it comes to the story.
後々調査に必要なそうなの心外だな目的は果たしたから何まだ
Is that it? Is that all the quest was? Because it didn't seem like it didn't seem like the other quest. Like, it didn't seem like we were going to. There it is. So basically before with Vivian, it was more of the conclusion, and this is kind of like the setup for the Act 2. It was like, cool, Vivian's quests were like, we wrapped up Act 1, and this is like, okay, here's a little teaser of the direction we're going to go in Act 2. Training with, what's her name? Okay, yeah, so that is it, right? Yep. Okay, so now it's the classic raise your Infernaut level. I'm actually curious, because I'm actually getting really close to 60, which is the max level. Now, if I didn't take any breaks, I basically took... Oh, wow. Oh, this is an event. Oh, did they just start this event? Interesting, okay, so it's kind of like what we did for Genshin, it seems. It kind of seems like it's, like we use parts and... We use, oh, so that was still considered part of the... Well, yeah, it still was considered part of the episode. Okay, anyway, I'm done with that, so I'm going to go ahead and call it. I ended up ranting a little too much, so I didn't actually get much accomplished besides just doing that one relatively simple quest. So I was not able to do Hollow Zero again. Yesterday, it was because the quest ended up taking much longer than I thought. This time, the quest actually didn't take that long. Whereas my huge long rant about how people are misconstruing the success of Clair Obscur, trying to make it seem that turn-based RPGs are more popular than they are, despite all actual numbers disproving them. It's like, oh, cool, you know, sold well. Sure, 2 million sales is great, especially considering how low the budget was, right? 2 million sales definitely made their money back. But also, you know, Elden Ring sold 20 million. No, it's like 20. I think they just announced 20 million, so obviously in like 3 years or something, including DLC, you know, 20 million sales. But even still, like, I think within a few months it had sold 10 million. Black Myth Wukong also sold like 10 million. So it's like in a similar time frame. Like, I don't think Clair Obscur will ever get to that. Unless maybe, I honestly don't. Like, I can easily see it get to 5 million, 100%. I can easily see, but within a year it'll have 5 million sales. I think it'll probably peak between 6 and 8 million. I think that'll probably be it. So, but I mean, still amazing. The fact that they've sold 2 million already made all their money back. And then some, right? So they're already turned a profit. So any sales after this point are great. So the fact that they can make double the sale, I'm predicting that they're only going to make double the sales means they have even more money. So I'm very much looking forward to the next game. But yeah, I still understand numbers, and I do understand that turn-based RPGs are just not as popular as other genres. They're one of my favorite genres. I prefer turn-based RPGs, but I understand reality. You know, like I don't particularly care for first-person shooters, but those are also ridiculously popular. One of the most popular genres is a first-person shooter. Are the first-person shooters, like the Call of Duties, hell, even like the sports games are surprisingly popular. Like surprising because I have like literally I never play them. Like I do play for some first-person shooters like Borderlands, but I play zero sports games, so I don't know. I don't keep up to date with their culture, but I mean they sell well. EA keeps producing the same shit over and over again, and it sells, so they must be doing something right. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and call it. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.